Okay, shout out to my year 8 class. See, I did it. Okay, so these are sort of shortcuts for adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. So here's the deal. If you are adding and subtracting, you've got to make sure that you line up your decimals, and then it'll work. If you're multiplying and dividing, it appears, I like how it says this, the decimal point appears to move to the right or left. In reality, the numbers are hopping across that decimal is a better way to think about it. So if I have 13.753, to multiply that by 100, I've got two zeros, which means I do two jumps to multiply by 100, and that gives me 1375.3. So when we're multiplying by orders of 10, however many zeros we have is however many jumps we're going to have. And so for this one, I'm dividing by 10. So 586.92 divided by 10, I have 1 zero. So I'm going to go backwards by 1, and that's going to give us 58.692. All the same digits remain. Now, when I'm multiplying, initially, you're going to love this one, I ignore the decimal points, and I just multiply as usual. So I know if you're using a calculator is going to figure this out. I'm multiplying. So I would go through my normal multiplication, and I'm going to skip to the end. This, I promise you, will equal 49,278. But then when I put my decimals back in, what does it say here? The decimal place is correctly positioned in the answer according to the following rule. The number of decimal places in the answer must equal the total number of decimal places. So to put my decimal places back in, I've got 2 here, and I've got 1 there. So therefore, if I put those decimal places back in, I end up with 49 and 3 decimal places. Dividing decimals, we have to make sure I set it up in the old style with the algorithm, and this one's really easy. If my decimal point is here after the 6, my decimal point is in the same space in the quotient. So if I go through and do all my carrying, I'm going to end up with 18.78. So you must make sure that that decimal point just goes to the same place in the quotient as it is in the dividend. Okay, and we want to avoid dividing by decimals. So we can do this kind of cool thing. To avoid dividing by decimals by other decimals, we want to get the divisor, which is this puppy here, to be a whole number. And of course, whatever we change in the divisor, we must reflect that in the dividend. So we're going to multiply by the same thing so we can get equivalence. So we're going to hop this 2 across and do the same thing in this one. So now I've got a whole number 2 and 2735.4. So again, I had 0.02. And so I essentially multiplied both of these by the same number, which was 100. 1 0, another 0, 1 0, another 0. And then I can work out my answer from there.